taking a kind of back seat, but I'm happy to oblige Chris Maloney's request to be MC today. Today is a very special service, as they always are, but especially special today because we have a very special person who's going to give the sermon today. And I'll mention it more a bit later, but it's Mr. Mark Brown, who's come all the way with his wonderful wife Linda from Bromley Church Centre Community to give us a sermon which is entitled UPF and Tribal Messiahship. And I'll say a little bit more about that a bit later. Okay, so welcome everybody again. Please be seated, those who've just come in. We're going to start by inviting the band. Maybe first of all, let me ask, because has anybody here come for the first time? We need to greet people coming for the first. Anybody here for the first time or haven't come for a long time? Yeah, I want to welcome you all. And maybe we could just greet each other, just take a moment just to greet each other. Okay, I'd like to invite the band now to come up and lead us in 3 lovely songs, which you can all join in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marshall. So, we've got some wonderful hymns and holy songs to sing this morning, just to create the atmosphere and build towards the message that we can receive today, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to. So the first song is Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. So if you please rise and let's sing it.
Like the world forever, you alive.
Let's just remain standing to recite Family Pledge. So, Family Pledge number 1. Our family, the honor of children, let us seek our original land and build the kingdom of God on earth and heaven. The riches of the creation, by sending of true love. Will you please join me in prayer? Our beloved Heavenly Parents, we come to you this Sunday morning as brothers and sisters of the Unification community and guests and friends to celebrate this time of worship. We invite your Spirit to come and be with us during the duration of this service this morning, and we want to really pray that we can open our hearts and minds to receive your word through our elder brother, Mr. Mark Brown, who is going to speak to us about UPF and Tribal Messiahship. We know we've had a hectic week last week with the visit of San Janim and the little angels. It was wonderful but hectic, and now we can recover from that and move forward to do other things for you and the providence. So please be with us all during this time, and we pray that truly we can inherit words of wisdom, inherit wonderful things that we can take forward this coming week and the months and years ahead. Thank you for bringing us together, and for those also watching and hearing on the internet. I want to offer this prayer with all my brothers and sisters here today in my name, Marshall and Susan, Central Blessed Family, RG. Please be seated. Okay, let me end. First of all, there's a half service downstairs for all the young people. I'd also like to ask the young ones to go to Sunday service now. Let's give them a good hand. Okay, we have a number of announcements. Actually, when I mentioned Mark and Linda Brown, I should also have said we have some other distinguished people from our UPF office today. My sister Joyce, Robin Marsh, and I think Margaret Ali's here as well. So we have the what's the word? The honour of having all the leaders of UPF. I'll announce it later. I'll do it later. Yeah. So we have all the UPF people here today. So let's really listen well to the sermon and see how we can support UPF and Tribal Messiahship. So actually the first, there are a number of announcements now, and the first is about a meeting afterwards. There's a UPF meeting after the service in the ballroom around 1 o'clock, and I've been told that you can bring your lunch upstairs if you want to join in and see how you can participate and take part in UPF activities. So we'll hear more about what can be done and how inspiring it can be from Mark Brand shortly. But, so you're welcome to come. And there's also 2 events coming up, which my sister Joyce has invitations. There's one on Tuesday, and it's a UPF event. What does living for the sake of others mean to me? That's on Tuesday, the 26th of May, here at Lancaster Gate, starting with refreshments at 6 o'clock. So there's that one. And then on the 4th of June, also here, we have a celebration of Africa Day, starting at 6:30 p.m. So Joyce will hand out leaflets if your invitations, if you'd like to come, or invite your guests. Okay, so that's that. Okay, a few others now, and you all have the notices, the sheet of notices. David Franklin, who cannot be here today, asked me to make sure that you have one, take one home and read. I won't go through all the different activities on there. There's quite a few announcements which you can read in your own time, but I'm going to mention some of them that David Franklin asked me to announce. So, I want to refer to the next one is the next 2 Sunday services. Okay, so on May, the next Sunday there won't be a service here. It's a harp and carp service in Lancaster Gate, and you're all invited to find out which services you can attend in people's homes or attend a Christian church. So that's the option for next Sunday. And then on the 7th of June, we have a regular community service here, and it'll be followed by a church council meeting where you can address your issues. In fact, Chris asked me to mention that if anyone has any issues, please get in touch with Tom O'Connell beforehand, before the 7th of June. So those can be raised at the meeting. Okay, let's move on. Yes, you may have heard, in fact it's in your service, it's in your notice, there's a second generation in Iceland who's very, very ill, who's actually in an induced coma for almost 2 weeks. I was reading about it. Her name is Afi Johnson in Iceland. She's very ill, and really our prayerful support is really needed for her. A special prayer request for Afi Johnson. There's a picture of her and a little bit more on the sheet. And also, as you may have heard from our Bromley community, our wonderful sister Irene Tamsin-Ikain passed away. And her Sungwa ceremony will be next Saturday, the 30th of May, at 10 o'clock, in Livingston House, the actual Sungwa, and then the burial at the Wanjan at the farm at 4 o'clock. There'll be, I think, more information about that. That's all I know for now. I'm planning to go, and I know Father's a very good friend of mine, and Irene as well. And I'm also the godfather of little Farah, so I should certainly be attending myself. And I'm sure many of you would like to come as well. So let's help Irene to really ascend in a beautiful way to the spirit world. Okay, now I'm going to ask Johanna Hartwell to give a little announcement. Johanna.
Hello everybody, nice to see you all. David asked me to announce about the witnessing booklets, just in case people haven't seen them. We have these, which were translated from the German. Achim Pock in Germany put these together. They were translated by Eddie Hartley, proofread by René Corley, and printed in London. So these are now fully fledged versions of Divine Principle. The first one is Chapter 1, Parts 1 to 5. Abbreviated. The second one is Chapter 1, Part 6 about the spirit world, and the third booklet is Chapter 2 about the fall. You're welcome to get them here after the service, either from David or myself. I'm here today. David's celebrating his 37th anniversary of his blessing, 118 couple blessing, so he's not here today. But there's several of these leaflets in the boxes downstairs in the office. So if you do require any cash up front, 20p each, and they're very, very good quality. Each booklet has, I believe, 12 or 16 pages, I can't remember yet. They're very, very high quality gloss, 16 sides, so you can't go wrong there. Very inspiring to give to people, or, just read yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. And we have one more testimony. I'd like to invite Kayo Hayashi, who's going to share a wonderful testimony she had in Vienna last week. So please come on, Kayo.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kayo. My dad's Mr. Hayashi in the corner of the room every Sunday. And just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Cranes Club kick-off event that happened 2 weeks ago. And yeah, so for a long time I've been, after like True Father's Ascension, and I was watching True Mother and how she started organising a lot of new programs and initiatives, and I was wondering, when that is going to leak down to Europe, and I was kind of looking for something to do with us, or my community, and the people my age, the second generation, and yeah, specifically in Europe. And so when I got an email about the Cranes Club, I was really interested, and I kind of wanted to see what it was all about. And it took place just after the 50th anniversary celebrations in Vienna, in Hilton Hotel, so that was a really nice setting for about 400 second generation to gather across Europe. So does anybody know what Cranes Club is?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah?
Got you over.
Thanks. So Cranes Club is like a new organisation that True Mothers started. It first kicked off in Las Vegas last year in December, and the purpose of it, officially, is the Cranes Club is a new organisation that provides a supportive network of young unificationist professionals who aspire to contribute their expertise towards the successful establishment of Chonavik. So I think it was a new space for young unificationists, the second generation, predominantly we're all kind of moving into the 20s and 30s, and it's really the time where we need a space or a certain pardon? Yeah, we need some attention, yeah, right? And yeah, True Mother did express that she felt sorry that she had kind of left the European movement to their own devices, and yeah, she feels like finally that she can introduce something to take on of a second generation. So there is like an increasingly higher demand for something to happen for that generation, I guess. And so yeah, True Mother expressed what kind of was a good experience for me was True Mother came into the room, and she was kind of walking around in the midst of the second generation, was talking about how how much she cared for the second generation, and yeah, for me it was the first time that I was in like close proximity to True Mother. So it was I guess like a special experience, because you see True Mother in magazines and speeches, and she's talked highly. So for me it was like a nice experience to see that she actually cares, which is nice. And so it was kind of like an amalgamation of loads of testimonies of professionals and how they keep their life of faith within the workplace, and also some new ideas and visions for the Cranes Club. So at the moment, it's the vision stated by True Mother that we come together, second generation, first generation, under a certain vision, but within a professional circle. So there are quite a few ideas, but I thought the one that was good was creation of a social networking platform, which is kind of, if you know, like LinkedIn, it's like a professional social networking site. And so those kind of things are underway. So the kickoff event was to state the vision, and I think for a lot of second generation, it was about for True Mother to communicate her heart, and that she actually is around and she does care and things like that. So for me, it's something exciting, because anyway, I think a lot of second generation are waiting for something to happen or wanting to join something for like a sustainable future of this community. So yeah, all positive at the moment, and so we're kind of waiting for feedback to come through, and from there we're kind of trying to create a more structural, like a more of a structural system, I guess, for like electing chairpersons and that kind of thing. So for those who are interested, you can come to talk to me or even Renee, who's working on this social media platform. So yeah, watch this space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaya. It's really wonderful when we hear people take the initiative and get involved in things like that. So good luck. I hope it develops well. Okay, actually talking of caring, Anne Kotick just asked me to mention this very briefly. And you all know about the Nepal earthquake disaster that happened not long ago. Anyway, I'm actually also going to the Watford celebration tomorrow, and there'll be a collection there for the victims of the Nepal earthquake. Anne has left an envelope and a bowl down there, so if anyone wants to offer something for the Nepal victims, I'll make sure that it through IRFF or through other ways, it'll get to Nepal. Thank you. Okay, before we welcome the band again, I'm going to do the reading for today. Okay, this I believe this is taken from True Father's words. Okay, so there's a two-page reading I'm going to read out that Mr. Mark Brand will refer to in his sermon. Okay, so it's about Tribal Messiahship. Okay, from now on, the blessed couples should do Tribal Messiahship. That's all you need to do. Tribal Messiahship is the most important mission. The root has been satanic, and humanity has been born from the satanic root. Father brought the tree of life, the new root, trunk, major branch, and bud. What is this tree? What this tree needs now is more branches. Those branches are blessed couples. You are the branches of the tree of life. That's what you are. You belong to the tree of life. Cosmic true parents, world true parents, national true parents. Father substantialized those completely. He made the deepest root of true love, deeper than the root of satanic love. He made the true love bud, which is the central bud, most high. In this area, Satan cannot control anything. Therefore, he cannot remain. Only God can connect with this area. He can connect to the root, the trunk, and everything. This is the victorious root and trunk, with God dwelling in everything. Your job is simple. In the Old Testament era and the New Testament era, we have been working vertically. Vertically, Father now has completed the way from the deepest root to the highest bud. All you have to do is become a branch of the tree of life, the tree which Father created. The job which remains for you is horizontal, attaching to the tree to become a branch. Within the successful foundation of true parents, there are three layers: the true parents' victory, Jesus' victory, and Adam and Eve's victory. Now Father is holding out the realm of Jesus' victory and giving it to you in Tribal Messiahship. That means you are in that role. In that position, you include the perfection of Adam and Eve. Therefore, you can be a Messiah. You can go out and save others. You have that power as a blessed couple. You have the power to bring them salvation. Father has trained you so that you will have the qualification to be blessed. By the same token, Father is now giving you that Tribal Messiah power. You can go to your hometown. You can bless your own parents and your own brothers and sisters and bring many to the blessing. When you have 430 families come under your tribe, registered in your book, you can say you have completed Tribal Messiahship. You cannot enter heaven alone, no matter how great you are, without the recognition of those 430 families. To summarize, Tribal Messiahship, first of all, is restoration of ancestors. Second, restoration of hometown. Since you are restoring Adam and Eve's surroundings, the town will also be restored. That is the hometown mission, the second mission of the Tribal Messiah. Everything which is connected to your own father and mother, their artistic attachments, whatever that is, it will be restored and transferred to the heavenly side. Until now, all of it has been in the satanic realm. What about the third mission of Tribal Messiahship? The third is to attend and live with God. God has to come down, and the dwelling of God is to be with you and your family. That is the kingdom of heaven. Thus, Adam and Eve's family and your hometown have the same value. God's dwelling place is the hometown of Adam's family. That place is God's dwelling place, all the time. Your hometown will no longer be in the satanic realm. It will be a town where God can come freely all the time. The dwelling of God will be with you in your home and your hometown. If you fail Tribal Messiahship, then you cannot train, you cannot attain the restoration of your ancestors. You cannot restore your hometown, and you cannot have God with you. So, is your tribal messiahship an absolute mission or a mediocre mission? Absolute. It is the same thing with Father. Throughout his entire life, Father has been going this way. The essence of today's declaration, the true parents and the completed testimony age, is nothing more than the completion of the purpose of creation. The completed testament era is where the ideal of creation has been accomplished. Who represents that completion? The true parents. Therefore, the true parents are the completion. Tribal Messiahship is that important for the blessed couples. So not trying to do the Tribal Messiahship means you are not deserving the blessing. You are worrying about mundane things, such as which school your children go to, or going out and earning a living, and so forth and so on. You have excuses. But compare these things to the dimension of the Tribal Messiahship. Which one should come first? Tribal Messiahship. If your husband doesn't want to go, what should you do? When you go to your hometown, you should exceed the record of serving set by your good ancestors, because you are the first Tribal Messiah for your hometown. You must set the standard. Your ancestors were until now on Satan's side. We belong to God's side. You are the #1 champion of God's side. So, we have to do Tribal Messiah, saving your hometown, your ancestors, and God. If you do that, you are a Tribal Messiah. So, that's the reading for today. And now I'd like to ask the band to please come up and lead us in a couple of songs.
So we'll sing 2 more songs together. So before we hear our main speaker today, Mark Brown. So please rise and let's sing How Great Is Our
Be right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it gives me, well, it's an honor and gives me great pleasure to invite our sermon giver this morning, Mr. Mark Bryan. There's many things I can say about Mr. Bryan, but I chose just to say 3 things. It'll take a long time otherwise, so let him do the talking. First of all, Mark Bryan is a former national leader of the United Kingdom, so we're happy to have him here as an elder brother of our movement and leader. Also, his current mission, I asked him, which I didn't know before, is he's the chief executive for Europe for the World Summit. So that's a very special mission that he has, and he's very qualified, I'm sure, to do that. And then thirdly, Mark and Linda Bryan were actually our neighbours in Lancaster Gate a long time ago when our daughter was born. And so Linda was here, Mark was away. So I can actually say Mark and Linda are close friends of my own family. And, so with that said, I want to invite Mark Bryan to give the sermon this morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to take a little adjusting to the situation because I have my PowerPoint behind me, but I've got a separate PowerPoint in front of me, and I'm not sure. Can you see that fairly clearly in the back?
Yeah.
No problem. Okay. Is it better if I stand on the side or
this
the
side?
middle? Okay. That's fine.
That's good.
How's that? Okay. No. Okay, well, thank you very much to Marshall for that. Thank you also, Marshall, for surviving being our neighbours for all that time. It's a testimony to his faith and his strength of spirit and everything. So, yes, so far this morning, Marshall read to us, I thought, very, very well, the extract from Father's speech. That was actually in 1993 in California. And it really dealt with the why of Tribal Messiahship. Why do we do Tribal Messiahship? And I was thinking, what to share in this sermon, and I felt, Father said we shouldn't give our own words. We should use Father's words more. That's why I chose a really long passage. And I felt Father is the one to really explain the whys of Tribal Messiahship. Why do we have to be Tribal Messiah? Because it's our most important mission. It's the way we engraft most completely onto the true olive tree, as wild olive trees. True Mother was talking about that in Vienna. It's the way that we ourselves become part of the tree of life, the way we become most fully alive, fulfill our purpose of creation, learn to love unconditionally all kinds of people, and so on and so forth. So there's not a lot I can really add to what Father shared in that reading from 1993. Just to remind you here about the value and importance of Tribal Messiahship and the purpose, inherit true parents' heart of love for all people. That's the essence. So I don't really have too much to add to that. But the question I want to pose really is this. Father said these things in 1993. That's, getting on for a quarter of a century ago. And honestly speaking, how many of us, including myself, including my own family, how many of us have fulfilled Tribal Messiahship, and how many of us have achieved any level of Tribal Messiahship? I think the honest answer is, that most people haven't been able to do so much. And there are many, many reasons for that. Recently, fortunately, some brothers, there's one brother in Thailand, former national leader of Thailand, Dr. Lek. I can't pronounce his last name because it lasts about sort of 2 lines. But anyway, he has fulfilled Tribal Messiahship, and 1 or 2 in the Philippines, and 1 now in Korea. I think there's about 4 people all around the world who've actually fulfilled Tribal Messiahship. And just to put it into perspective, even true parents themselves actually, the one area where they haven't fulfilled, where they fulfilled everything up to sort of cosmic level, is Tribal Messiahship, and they have a really good excuse, and that is because their tribe is basically in North Korea and they couldn't get to them, but they're planning that, and that will happen, I'm sure, in due course. But just to say, though, that there are many good reasons why we couldn't do Tribal Messiahship, and of course, we've had family difficulties, we've had public missions, we've had so many other things that we had to do. But Father's last words to us, if you remember that video, a very moving video where he talks about everything being completed, the one thing that he remembers to say to all of us is, do Tribal Messiahship. So the question is, how can we do Tribal Messiahship? And obviously I'm sure a lot of us have thought a lot about this, and that becomes even more pressing now that we're coming up towards the 2020 vision. I think the big point is, of course we all have our own personal difficulties, family difficulties and so on we have to overcome. But one of the biggest decisions that we have to make is, what do we use, what vehicle do we use to do Tribal Messiahship? And actually, True Parents made incredible number of resources and vehicles for us to fulfill our responsibility. I think one of the problems is that they tend to get created and then they can tend to be left on the side, on the shelf, and we tend to forget about them. We maybe don't have so much of them here in Europe. But there are many things that we do have, many resources that we do have that we could be using, and I would like to suggest aren't using, and we now should look at how to use. And this will be a big part, because if we, honestly speaking, if we look at the church as such, Family Federation, is that always the best vehicle to do Tribal Messiahship? My honest answer to that is a resounding no. And I'll come on to explain a bit more why that is in a moment. But let's remember that True Parents, one of their geniuses is that they were truly fishers of men. They created so many things, so many vehicles. We just had the little angels here. I had a very wonderful experience with my 3 members of my family I brought along. They've come before, but they came again this time, and they were so deeply touched afterwards. They were so peaceful. They said, we feel so peaceful. And that's such a great help for me in Tribal Messiahship and reaching out to my family, because my family aren't all, very few of them are churchgoers, and very few of them have actually a formal religious affiliation. So actually True Parents have created an enormous number of things. And we also need to use our creativity. So we have, of course, the church, as I mentioned. I don't rule that out as a vehicle, but also we have UPF, Women's Federation, CARP, Youth Federation, Universal Ballet, Little Angels, Fishing Federation for World Peace, all kinds of things, hobby industries, you name it. There are so many federations for world peace that we've all forgotten about, that were created and then just left on one side. And we can examine those and see. But my purpose here is this morning, because my mission for the last 12 years or so has been Universal Peace Federation. I came to the realization a few years ago that actually we were doing Universal Peace Federation in the wrong way, in many ways. We do many right things, of course, but also we were doing things in many ways in the wrong way. And I want to explain about that realization, if I can. Let's look first of all, though, at Family Federation. My purpose is not to put any other organization down, so please don't misunderstand me. Every organization that True Parents created is unique and precious and valuable in its own way. When we look at Family Federation, of course, we're all members of Family Federation. We all came to True Parents. For most of us here, I'm sure, our initial contact was with Family Federation or the church, which was its predecessor. So there's no question that Family Federation is a uniquely, supremely valuable providential organization. And if you look at what True Mother's done recently, she's reorganized all the organizations centering on the Chunjungung, and Family Federation is the vehicle through which she works. Her principal secretary, Mr. Man-Hu Kim, who was here, he is Secretary General of Family Federation. Sunjin Moon, her daughter, who's now also chairman of UPF internationally, is also global, I forget whether she's president or chairman of Family Federation. So there's no question that Family Federation is the most important. Why? Fundamentally because Family Federation embodies all that true parents are and all that true parents want the world to be. Family Federation, if you think of it in terms of a mountaintop, you think of true parents sitting on the top of a mountain, then Family Federation is the vehicle which can get you to the top of the mountain. I think that's the most important thing one can say about it. If you want to be up there with true parents, part of true parents' lineage, you want to be part of this tree of life that Father talks about for Tribal Messiahship, you have to eventually, at some point, go through Family Federation to get up the mountain. But of course, we all know that Family Federation has a lot of minuses as well. One of them is that it's more to do with the society we live in than the Family Federation, of course, but we, as Family Federation, are a religious organization and our aim is to convert people. We can't get away from that. So everyone knows that, and if you invite people to a Family Federation event, it's a little bit intimidating to them. They think, I'm not sure I really want to get into their religion. There's a lot of that in society. People are suspicious of religions. There have been scandals with religions. The Catholic Church has had, the Church of England, paedophile priests, all kinds of other obvious corruptions in existing religious bodies. So people are very wary of bodies that seek to convert them, at least in Western Europe and probably in Eastern Europe as well, I think, as well. And also, of course, we know that we went through many court cases and all kinds of press allegations about, you know, brainwashing and breaking up families, and all this kind of misunderstanding, deep misunderstanding, and therefore there's a certain amount of baggage associated with Family Federation. So true parents have known for a long time, they know much better than we do, that if we want to reach people and bring them to Family Federation is not necessarily the first place that you bring them to. I think that's probably quite uncontroversial. So look at other organizations. Women's Federation, a wonderful organization. It's non-confessional. You can't convert to Women's Federation, so it's not intimidating. It's very respectable because it's got special status at the United Nations. It's done lots of projects and great works around the world. So it's a wonderful organization for bringing particularly your female relatives to, for Tribal Messiahship. The only thing against it, the only thing that's not in its favor is that basically it's for women. If you want to bring a man, your brother, your uncle, your father, whatever, Women's Federation would not be the obvious choice for that. But it has also another weakness, which all these other providential organizations do apart from Family Federation. It only brings people to the bottom of the mountain. You can't bring people all the way to fulfill their complete responsibility through Women's Federation, and the same, of course, is true of all other providential organizations except for Family Federation. So CARP, a great organization for bringing students. Many of our best young leaders have joined through that in Korea or Japan or America or Europe. And it's a great organization, and it's coming up in the UK, but unfortunately, of course, it's only a very limited age group. People between the ages of roughly 18, 25, 27, something like that. We can bring them, but beyond that we can't because of the age factor. So what about UPF? UPF reaches out to all people, old, young, religious, not religious, all different races, nationalities and so on. Like Women's Federation, it's non-confessional, you can't convert, so you bring them to a UPF meeting, they don't feel you're trying to get them into your church. It's respectable, like Women's Federation, it has very high UN status, it's in special consultative status with ECOSOC at the United Nations. And again, it has this limitation, we can only bring people to the bottom of the mountain, we can't bring them all the way up. So when we're thinking about Tribal Messiahship, we need to think very carefully, how am I going to do it? Who am I? Am I Family Federation member? I'm a Women's Federation member, UPF member, what am I? And on what basis am I going to approach people, and what am I going to bring them to, so that they can understand more about true parents? So I want to explain primarily about UPF, because as you'll see later, I understand that UPF is really the main gateway, the biggest gateway through which we can bring people into True Parents' realm of heart. Not necessarily so high up the mountain, but at least bring them to a realization that there's something really precious and valuable that they can gain from associating. So UPF has 5 principles of peace. Note these, none of them are religious tenets in the sense of being denominational. They don't talk about how they see Jesus Christ. They don't talk about any other points of religious doctrine. They talk about basic principles that basically anyone from any religious background, pretty much anyone from any non-religious background can relate to. We are one human family created by God. Highest qualities of a human being are spiritual and moral in nature. The family is the school of love and peace. Living for the sake of others is the way to reconcile the divided human family. And peace comes from cooperation beyond boundaries of ethnicity, religion, and nationality. So there's clearly a religious basis or foundation to these principles, but they're not denominational, they're not limited to any one religion. So that's a very, very big plus for most people. Also, many people are sort of agnostic, or certainly maybe not atheistic. They can relate to these even if they don't subscribe even to belief in God. They're very unthreatening, they're very commonsensical to most people. So this is these are the principles on which we introduce people to True Parents' realm through UPF. Now, I just want to say a word about how UPF has been, the history of it in Europe, and how UPF has been regarded over the years, because there was a time, Father founded UPF in 2005, and then from that time onwards, for a period of 4 years, if you remember, we were all UPF. Does everyone remember that?
Yes.
Remember, you were once UPF and not so much Family Federation. That was because for a period of time, I don't know whether it was True Parents or whether it was our European leadership or what exactly, but the feeling was we should build on the foundation. True Parents came, they came to London, they went to a dozen or so places around Europe on their world tour, and they inaugurated UPF, and then of course later True family members came, True children and other True grandchildren and others came. And for about 4 years we frenziedly went around making ambassadors for peace around Europe, and we made about 30,000 of them. And then suddenly in 2009, this is a tendency in our movement, we all go in one direction, and then somebody says, okay, stop that, do something else, we all go in a different direction. That's one of the unfortunate shortcomings of our movement. And what happened was that basically these 30,000 ambassadors for peace were left holding their certificates, but not much more. I think it was very meaningful, please don't get me wrong, that they became ambassadors for peace. I think it's a very spiritual thing when somebody becomes an ambassador for peace. It involves their ancestors and some very deep feelings and realizations on the part of the person himself. But we weren't in a position, we weren't set up to develop those 30,000 ambassadors for peace. And to a great extent, not all of them, because quite a few of them have been connected since, quite a few of them are still sort of, they've got a certificate on the wall, but they don't really know what it means, and they haven't really done anything to fulfill their ambassador for peace responsibility. I didn't say not all, I said there are quite a few who are connected, not least through this, in this building as well. Anyway, from 2009 until now, very recently, we were all just doing Family Federation. And what happened was that UPF went back to being taken care of by a very small group of specialist people who were used to dealing with high-level VIPs and so on and so forth. And so what tends to happen, and what happened in this case, is that the image of UPF grew up then of it being something for high-level people. That's what we invite MPs to. That's what we invite former heads of state and government to, this kind of understanding, which is not wrong in terms of what we've done the last few years, but is definitely wrong in terms of True Parents' vision. That's what I want to really share with you this morning. So what is True Parents' vision? Why is it Universal Peace Federation? It's Universal Peace Federation because it's for everyone, literally everyone. When Father got wind of what was happening with UPF, one thing he said was to kind of shock us out of our concept about UPF and the way we were working. He said, you could make babies ambassadors for peace. People thought, you know. But of course he was being deliberately ridiculous and provocative because he wanted us to really re-examine our notion of what are ambassadors for peace and why do we make them. And so people like Robin and Margaret, they've done fantastic work the last, since 2009, and they've made more ambassadors for peace, and they've reached out to the ambassadors for peace that we made previously, and they've got lots and lots of really good ambassadors for peace who are studying principle now, who are going to workshops at Cleave House and so on. But this isn't universal across Europe. And in fact, it's rather the exception than the norm. So what I think many of us realized a few years ago was that actually UPF was designed by true parents, not least for tribal messiahship, to empower everyone, every brother and sister, every blessed couple, every blessed member, to be able to do tribal messiahship in a more effective way. And I want to explain a lot more about why it's more effective in a little while. So as I said before, what I've strongly felt for some years is that actually Universal Peace Federation is the main gateway through which true parents, through which people will mainly come to true parents. Why? Because it's universal. It's not gender-based. It's really designed for anyone and everyone to be able to relate to. And that's why it's so powerful, potentially, if we choose to use it for tribal messiahship. And I want to explain, of course, a lot more about that as we go along. So, of course, it's not an easy process. We chop and change. We were all Family Federation. We became UPF. Then we became Family Federation again. It's a bit confusing to people, and one loses the thread of what UPF is all about. I perfectly understand that. When I go around Europe, as I've done the last 10 years, and ask brothers and sisters at Sunday services or meetings or conferences or whatever, how do you understand UPF? They will say things like, oh, that's for VIPs. They have all kinds of limited ideas like that. It's not their fault. It's just because of the way it's unfortunately developed. And in order for people to get back into doing UPF as they did between 2005 and 2009, my strong feeling was we need to have some kind of induction process. If we just say to everybody, you know, do your tribal messiahship through UPF, it won't work for many reasons. One is because people are not in touch with what UPF does or how UPF operates, so they will say things wearing their UPF hat or brandishing their UPF membership card, which is not appropriate to UPF. That's one thing. So it'll put people off. The brand of UPF will be kind of downgraded in some way, and that won't produce a positive result. So what we need to do is to have induction seminars, introductory seminars or whatever, where we can explain to all of you again what is UPF and how can you use it for tribal messiahship. So I'm not going to go into all the details now. Partly afterwards, Robin and Margaret and Joyce and myself, we will be available to talk to you and explain more. We'll have a meeting afterwards where you can ask questions and get to know and feel more familiar with UPF. But the main thing I want to get across is that you know, we understand that it's not possible just to go back to UPF. You need some process of relearning and picking up the threads again before you can do that. And that's what we want to provide, partly through this Sunday service, but also in South London. So we have now instituted a membership system. UPF is going to become becoming an independent organization. It will soon become a charity, recognized by the law of the land as an independent organization from Family Federation. It will have the ability to receive funds from people with tax exemption and not having to pay tax and so on, like charities do. And also membership will give certain rights and benefits. A membership card for UPF, all of these kind of things, so that when you go and visit your relatives, you don't have to go as the church. You can go with your UPF identity if you want to do that, and you can introduce them to UPF. You can go to the website and show what UPF does, which is a lot of good things for people, which is completely can be completely seen apart, if you want to, from the religious motivation behind it, so people don't feel threatened in any way. And of course, we don't use overtly religious language. We don't talk to people about, deeper internal things so much, especially not in the beginning. We don't talk about witnessing in UPF. We use outreach because witness is a churchy kind of term that puts people off. We don't convert people. We make them into ambassadors for peace. They don't have to become members, but we strongly encourage people to become members, even if they're ambassadors for peace, because that gives them more of an inside view of things, helps them to connect to what's going on and so on. So there are so many ways in which UPF can be used, and I just want to explain a bit first about some of the activities of UPF, because when you witness to people in Europe and Britain, we're a very secular culture now. We're rather humanistic people, as we talked about earlier, not so directly interested in organized religion. People judge you, people evaluate you more than anything else by what do you do. People ask you, what organization you belong to? Okay. The next question they ask is not what do you believe, they ask you what do you do? What does your organization do? And so True Parents' idea through UPF is to witness for True Parents through what True Parents do. And True Parents have very sincerely, very devotedly tried to solve many, many problems and difficulties in the world. And what I'd like to just present briefly now is a sort of a very brief snapshot of some of them, so you can get a sense of what you can present to your relatives, your family, your tribe, whatever, that shows that you are working with an organization that is doing really good work for the whole world. This is the World Summit. This is from last year, 2014, centered on peace, security, and development. And the purpose of this, internal purpose of this, is to bring heads of state and government to True Parents. Why? Because internally, True Parents are king and queen of peace. They're king of king and king of kings and queen of queens and whatever. That's the way they're seen from heaven's point of view. But the problem, of course, is they need to be a king of kings. You need a king to be a king of. And that means prime ministers, that means presidents, of course kings as well, but there's not so many kings left these days. So we're inviting mainly presidents and prime ministers. There you see a gathering of many of them at the World Summit last year. You can't see so many of their individual faces, but there were about, I think, 14 heads of state and government and about 10 first ladies, spouses. This is the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, being welcomed by Dr. Young and the President of our Korean Church. This is a sort of full session like any other World Summit that they may go to, but of course the core of it is not, they're not talking about this dispute between this country or this economic problem so much as values and principles of peace that can help to resolve all of those things. It's a stage removed from the sort of cutting edge of politics. And here you have heads of state and government sitting listening to other heads of state and government. The one who moved everybody the most was actually this Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, because he actually, people suggested to him after the first session, you can, Prime Minister, if you would like, you could go back to your suite and we could give you tea and whatever. He said, no, I've come for this conference. I have to listen to everything. So he actually sat through every single session from the beginning to the end, just like the humblest member. And it was very touching that somebody of his rank, would have that kind of attitude. Here are some of the people. The King of Lesotho, who is also the head of state. He had very deep experience, and he met with True Mother personally, and also felt inspired to give a very big donation. I think it was several $100,000 to UPF. And he also said to all the delegates assembled, he was so inspired by UPF, when he got back to Lesotho, he was going to give part of the nation's property to UPF to have a proper peace embassy in the country. This kind of thing happens. Zivko Budimir, he's now no longer president of Bosnia, but when he was there, he was very moved, and he was asked to give the blessing at the meal with True Parents in the Chunjangum, and the toast, I beg your pardon. And as part of the toast, he stood up and he said, True Mother, which kind of shocked us all because we had no idea how he felt about True Mother. He said, True Mother, I have to say to you, I feel here the extraordinary presence of God. He said, and also, I feel very strongly the presence of Father Moon.
Wow.
Everybody just burst out into applause. Can you imagine a head of state or government first time coming to us saying that kind of thing? This is the way that these kind of people can be moved by being in the Chenjiang and being around true parents. They really see it on a completely higher level. Also, the head of state of Samoa there, Prime Minister of Timor-Leste, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, First Lady of Fiji, First Lady of the Marshall Islands. Altogether, I think 16 or 17 former heads of current heads of state or government or First Ladies. That's the picture with True Mother. Anyway, this is something that obviously shows to our relatives, our tribe, that true parents are working on the highest world level. Heads of state and government are coming, learning from true parents and connecting to true parents. That's the message that they can get from that. This is all available on the website, of course. Another area of UPF is peace, education, and human development. Very important area. Just a few shots here. This is an ILC in Korea, lots of high-level people. Again, in these ILCs, we teach the principle, but not in an overtly denominational kind of form. So we talk about the general principles involved and so on, but it's very deep and it has a very good effect. I gave the lecture at one of these, I think a year or so ago, and I know from the response from people that they really did understand a lot of the divine principle just from one or two lectures. So we've got to introduce them somehow. This is a Japan-Europe Leadership Forum in Japan. Recently we sent a couple of top European VIPs. This is a former Secretary General of the Council of Europe from Austria, who's with Reverend Song and Mrs. Song there on the left. I'm sorry the exposure is a bit funny on this one. You can't see, but Europe is giving something very significant back to Japan in this way, witnessing to top Japanese people, diet members and so on through UPF VIPs from Europe. This is Divine Principle Seminar effected in Albania, done under UPF. Then interfaith is a very big part of UPF's activities. Peace building, this is a conference at the UN in Vienna on promoting a culture of peace through religion. Is it possible to change the, because it's not very clear, the photographs, the slides. Is it possible to make them any clearer, David? No, sorry. Anyway, you get a vague idea.
If we turn the spots off, spotlights.
Maybe you could try turning off the spotlights.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's better. Yeah,
George,
that's a lot better.
turn off the
Can you
spots.
turn the spots so you can see? I think I can manage with that.
Maybe better.
There we go. One more. There we go. Is that better?
No.
Okay, let's try it.
Now we can't see you either.
That's better. That's definitely better. It's definitely a plus. Anyway, we all know about MEPI. This is basically what is talked about in this slide. The main thrust of MEPI, the core of MEPI, is interfaith, bringing peace between the three Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, also, of course, other faiths like the Druze there. And through this, gradually building a foundation of peacefulness, of unity, of harmony, of cooperation between the faiths that actually are the basis of the problems between Arabs and Jews and other people in that part of the world. And so, you know, it's an ongoing thing. There's been a lot of success so far. We've involved Shimon Peres, who was then the president of Israel, and the various prime ministers of Israel, lots of the key leaders, the religious leaders, and a lot of good things have happened. There's still a ways to go because it'll be a while before we can see the full fruits. But this is a very, very important part of UPF's interfaith work. Also in the Philippines, a lot of work was done to unite Islam and Christianity there, Mindanao and other places. Bangladesh is a hotbed of tensions between different religions. UPF is very active there. Ireland also, of course, interfaith is a large part of what's behind the reconciliation, why Prince Charles was able to go recently meet with Jerry Adams and people, and the Queen could meet with Martin McGuinness and so on. A lot of it has to do with interfaith work by others, but also including ourselves. We're very active there in that field. Also the UK, we've done a lot. This is just one photograph here from the House of Lords. We've done a lot of youth interfaith forums there. And this is something that resonates also with parliamentarians. We have a number of parliamentarians who are very strong in the interfaith area. Also, we've been involved at the UN itself in setting up many interfaith projects. It was Father himself who talked about the Interreligious Council at the UN, if you remember, which is now ongoing because of the Philippines and other countries taking it up. And also World Interfaith Harmony Week, we were very much involved in the beginning of that. The first week in February every year is now designated as such. It's a whole week versus one day. And during that week, interfaith is king at the United Nations, many events and so on. And we have been asked to asked to organize many of those events over the past couple of years. So we are very, very highly respected and appreciated at the UN and very much involved in UN activities in this way. And of course, peace and security. There are so many parts of the world, Ukraine and Syria and Middle East and so on, where there are really major problems, not just tensions, but actually open conflicts, which true parents feel responsible to resolve. This is not window dressing, this is for real, and you'll come to understand that more as I go through. True parents' involvement in something, even though relatively small and symbolic, can often be the key to changing a whole situation. And we'll see that a bit more in a moment when we come on to Syria and so on. So this was a conference in Russia, talking about dialogue on the Korean Peninsula, reunification of North and South, which is obviously one major issue that UPF is involved in. This was something on peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that we held, I think, last year in Geneva. Lots of the key people from the diaspora, representatives from the Congo itself, the ambassador to the United Nations were there, and a very, very fruitful conference on building peace between the various factions in the Congo. Also, something on North-South reconciliation in Geneva as well, we held last year, very successful. That was mainly centered on the idea of having a fifth seat of the United Nations in Korea. You probably know that obviously the main UN is in New York. There's also UN in two UN seats in Europe. One is in Geneva, the other one's in Vienna in Austria. We also have one in Kenya. Those are the 4 official UN seats around the world. But True Parents' idea is that part of the reunification process of North and South is that there should be a 5th UN seat in the DMZ. Father talked about, remember, peace parks in the DMZ to make a peace zone. And this has now been taken up by the South Korean government, and they're also pushing for this idea of a 5th UN seat in the DMZ. Very topical. It's going to emerge more and more over the coming months and years. And we are, UPF is very much at the forefront. And there's something, again, you can use to show how we are at the forefront of bringing peace in places like Korea, on the Korean Peninsula. This is a very significant event that was held in Syria, again centered on interfaith. What is the interfaith dimension of not just Israel-Palestine, but the whole Middle East conflict, and especially the conflict now going on in Syria? One of the problems in Syria is you have Christians, Muslims, and all different groups within those two faiths, and you have all kinds of other faiths as well. So there's got to be a basis of interfaith harmony if you're going to rebuild the Syrian state. And we had a very successful conference here on the left actually in Jordan, in Amman, because obviously you couldn't hold it in Syria. And a lot of very top-level people came to that. And why this is so amazing and shows the value of these kind of events is because the Vatican got to hear about it. Pope Francis was desperate, felt very, very responsible. A lot of Catholics in that area, but also he's anyway beyond being just a Catholic as a person. And he was desperate to try to resolve the Syrian crisis, or to see what the Catholic Church could do. And he heard about our conference in Syria. I don't know how, it doesn't really matter in a way. And he was at that time telling his people in the Vatican, you have to convene an interfaith conference about Syria. How can the Catholic Church contribute to that? And prominent Catholics like Tony Blair, Mohammed El-Baradei, who's the head of the International Atomic Energy Mission, the former President of the European Commission, Romano Prodi, who's a Catholic, all basically Catholics, were invited. And I don't know whether you can see in that picture, it's a little bit too small, but
Yeah.
2 people in that picture are not Catholics. And guess what faith they are? Anyone know?
Unification.
Yeah, Margaret knows. She's cheating. Anyway, yes, one of them is Dr. Thomas Walsh, who's our international president of UPF. The other one is Miguel Werner, who is the Secretary General of UPF in the Argentine, which is where Pope Francis comes from. So he knew Pope Francis before, and actually Pope Francis was somewhat involved in interfaith affairs in Buenos Aires area and used to come as the Bishop of Buenos Aires, Archbishop, to those meetings. And so he knew a bit about our interfaith work and appreciated it before he became Pope. But anyway, the long and the short is that Tom Walsh was invited. Out of those 24 people that included Tony Blair and all these other major international Catholic figures, only 8 were asked to give a presentation paper, and Tom Walsh was one of them. In fact, when Tom Walsh, when he got the invitation, he thought it was a joke. So he said he was determined to find out who was playing a practical joke, who was the prankster. It's only a week later that he realized this was for real. Actually, effectively, the Pope was asking him to come to Rome and advise him about interfaith matters. Anyway, that was inspiring. That's something to be proud of, not just for our Catholic, those of us who have Catholic relatives, but all kinds of other people can appreciate it. If the Pope appreciates your interfaith work, there must be something to it. Nothing to be ashamed of about our activities. But there's another thing as well that happened. You can't see him there, but Miguel Werner, who was from the Argentine, he suddenly, during this meeting, got a special invitation and said, His Holiness would be pleased if you would care to join him tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock for his private mass. Can you believe that? Can you believe a representative of true parents that the Pope knew to be a unificationist, not a Catholic at all, was invited to come and share the most intimate part of the Pope's day? Do you think that's significant, providential? So, really amazing. Nobody was praying for it. Nobody could have known it was going to happen, but it happened just through a simple, humble conference of ours in Syria. I think in some way it's kind of wiped the slate clean with the Vatican. We have had a difficult relationship because quite a few of them, best people, have joined our church in Ireland or in Austria, or Archbishop Malingo in Zambia. And of course, honestly speaking, we didn't necessarily handle it so well. We could say it's great they joined our church, but we weren't very sensitive to the ructions it might cause with the Catholics. Anyway, I think it's clearly made a new beginning in our relationship with the Vatican. It shows the Vatican is watching what we do. And they are seeing the value, and they're seeing that actually we can do some things that they can't do. That's very significant. That's a little step towards recognizing the value of true parents. So that's interfaith work. There's a follow-up in Geneva where we actually had some of the official representatives at the peace conference that actually wasn't successful from the Assad regime and from other factions. And they also welcomed us, and we could give our pitch to them as well. So also in Serbia, this is actually Serbia, but it's from Albania. Very, very successful event in one part of Albania, which is an Albanian enclave in Serbia. There's been tremendous friction between Albania and Kosovo, between Serbia and Kosovo, and Serbia and Albania. There was a war in the 1990s, huge refugee problem. There's a lot of legacy from that, not very good legacy. When I went to last year, I was able to meet with the president of Albania, inviting him to our World Summit, President Nishani. When I went in there, I was full of things that I was going to say to him about UPF, but I couldn't get a word in edgeways because although he's never been to one event, never consciously met our people, he spent the first 20 minutes, we were together for 40 minutes, the first 20 minutes he just talked to me about UPF, saying how valuable, he said, Mr. Brown, I promise you, as long as I am president, I will protect and do everything I can to support UPF in Albania. I didn't even think to ask him something like that, but he was saying those kind of things to me from his own initiative. And part of the reason was because of this initiative that made a huge impact in Albania, that UPF was able to hold effectively a Bridge of Peace event inside Serbia, linking Serbians in that area, the local population, to the Albanian population, and building bridges of peace. And all of Albania sat up and take notice, including President Nishani. This was last year, beginning of last year. So we're able to do a lot of things. International Day of Peace, together with the UN, we celebrate the International Day of Peace, which is a UN event every year, 21st of September, I think. And all of these countries, we hold an event, and of course this goes back to the UN. The UN can see that UPF is doing a lot to support it. UN's profile on the ground around the world is pretty sparse and pretty non-existent, but we partner with them, and through us, they're able to have a higher profile and be better known, and they appreciate us very much as a result. United Nations relations are really extremely good at the United Nations. We're working very closely with everybody from the top down, Ban Ki-moon, to many of the key Under-Secretary Generals or Deputy Secretary Generals. The Deputy Secretary General of the UN is a Tanzanian woman, Asha Rose something Hero, I think her name. And she is the one who is responsible for all interfaith at the UN. She was an ambassador for peace in Tanzania before she came to the UN. So we are very, very well placed. Africa Day every year, it's about now, it's sort of in June, isn't it? Sometime in June.
May 24th.
End of May, early June. And you probably recognize in the middle there Ban Ki-moon and his wife. Right? So every year, where do you think this is held? Any guesses? Margaret, don't. She knows all the answers, so I have to shut up. Anyone else know?
Does it remind you of somewhere?
Any guesses?
New Yorker.
Not in, I'll give you a clue, it's not in the UN.
New Yorker.
Close.
Manhattan
Manhattan Center. So every year, Ban Ki-moon comes and spends several hours in our company, in our Manhattan Center, where Triparian spoke so many times, holding this big event with all the delegations of the UN, sometimes heads of state and government from Africa, and celebrating Africa and Africa's relationship with the UN. And this is very closely associated, obviously, with us. Many times, I can't put up the footage now, but he's thanked us many times, thanking the Universal Peace Federation for the work we've done in this way. And he speaks. Also, another thing is that after Father passed away, about 6 months after Father passed away, Ban Ki-moon sent an invitation to True Mother and said, I would be very honored if you would meet me. And usually when Ban Ki-moon meets a head of state or government, it's set at about 15 or 20 minutes. But with True Mother, he set aside 1.5 hours. And he invited her to his personal suite and really welcomed her well with Dr. Lan Yang Moon and some other elder sisters of our Women's Federation. And he learned a lot about True Father from that, but he also expressed a lot of appreciation to True Mother for what Father has done, True Parents have done for the United Nations. So that's from the very, very top. Also, we're working with a thing called the Alliance of Civilizations, which works all around the world to, basically it's a social cohesion thing, bridging gaps between different religions, races, and so on. And we have now got an official memo with them that we are partners with them at the United Nations. So marriage and family, I don't need to say too much about it. You know all about that, how important that is for our movement. But we have had conferences in the UN, like last year in June. Very good conference with top-level people, pro-family activists from around the whole of Europe, talking about the value of the family in the UN, which is very significant because the UN in Geneva is actually one of the few places that seems to support the traditional family. They passed a motion saying that a family should be between one man and one woman, a marriage, contrary to what people in Ireland are saying apparently, and several other people in the UK say. This is very significant. And so this way we're building a network relationship with all of these pro-family, traditional family groups around Europe, which will be a very powerful way for us to work in the future. Without UPF, we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that through the church, honestly. We had a very wonderful event in the Czech Parliament with many senior parliamentarians from the Czech Republic and from other countries last year. This is the shape of things to come in the Philippines, interfaith marriage and family blessing. Actually, this is a small one, because you probably saw there was one for about 150,000 couples in a huge open-air auditorium in Manila about 3 or 4 months ago, right? And that was, again, very much a UPF event. Recently, also in Nepal, there was one for 70,000 couples, sadly, just before the earthquake. I'll say more about that in a little while. Another one in Thailand. Those 3 countries, Nepal, Philippines, and Thailand, are really racing ahead in terms of the blessing. They want the blessing. Hundreds of thousands of people are being blessed in those countries. It's a remarkable phenomenon. They're sort of the prime movers in the Oceania region. Also, Indonesia is now coming up. So, anyway, that's all I need to say about family. Youth and service, a lot we're doing in this area. Religious youth service, we've had some in this country, bringing together different faiths to do common projects for the benefit of local communities. Honduras, Moldova, just on the edge of Europe and Eurasia. Austria, Russia, all over the place. Again, our Youth Achievement Awards here in the House of Lords in the UK. Patron there in the middle, Narendra Sharma MP, just got re-elected with the help of, not of UPF, but of Robin Marsh.
The biggest one.
And we had a launch of Youth UPF last year in August in Sweden. Margaret and others came over, and that was very successful for all of Scandinavia. We also have medical clinics in different countries, Cambodia, Nepal, of course we have hospitals and so on in Japan and Korea and other places. This is a slide from a while ago when there was an earthquake in Thailand. But recently you probably saw that True Mother gave a check for $1 million to Nepal to help with the earthquake relief. So we're also very active there in the earthquake. Half of it went straight to the government, was received by the Prime Minister. The other half was given to Family Federation actually, and that was used to do earthquake relief through the Family Federation directly. So a total of $1 million. Helping with the refugee problem in the Lebanon, the aid. This is also helping Nepal, displaced people in Nepal, Nigeria. Recently, Jacques Marion, the new Secretary General of UPF, he was responsible for shipping, I think, 2 container loads of books to the University Library in the Congo, which was received by the brother of the President of the Congo. Very successful. Recently had a Sport for Peace tournament together with Juventus, who are in the Champions League final in Italy, talking about how to make peace through youth soccer. Anyway, all kinds of things. I can only give you a tiny, tiny snapshot. UK, just very briefly, again, we have these different areas: interreligious, interfaith, marriage and family, youth, peace and security, relief and service. This is Jack Corley talking at a big interfaith festival in West London. There's Marcus Braybrook as well, who's one of our ambassadors for peace. There were, I don't know, many, many thousands of people at that event in Ealing somewhere, I think. This is Marcus Braybrook, who for many years has with us run a series on forgiveness and reconciliation. Some were here, like here in Lancaster Gate, that's downstairs in the cafeteria, but others have been in Parliament and at other locations. Something people more and more interested in, and very successful outreach over the last 5 years. And then Robin Marsh, this was at the time, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, Robin, after the Greenwich atrocity where Islamists attacked a soldier, Lee Rigby. There was a very big danger of a backlash against the Islamic community, and we felt we needed to show solidarity, that it wasn't all Muslims at all who were involved, it's just a very fringe few, and that Islam was a very fundamentally good religion. And I think this was very much appreciated. That's one of our ambassadors for peace there with the white scarf around his Sheikh Ramsey from Oxford, who's one of the top people in the Islamic Council of Britain. Marriage and family. This is, unfortunately, this is not one of our UPF UK blessings, I'm sorry to say. We've never had one quite that big. There's about several tens of thousands of people there. But we can give the blessing through UPF. That's important to understand. In fact, many of the blessings that have been given in Britain and Germany and other countries in the last few years have been through UPF. Because we give it as the UPF peace blessing, or whatever we call it. It doesn't involve conversion. It involves just adhering to certain key principles, faithfulness in marriage and so But it is a very good way to get your relatives, your family, your tribe blessed, is through UPF. They'd far rather come here to a UPF blessing than go to a family federation blessing. Also, honestly speaking, sometimes the level of the guests being higher is also an added attraction to people. So please bear that in mind. If you want to get people blessed, you can ask Robin and Margaret, and they can tell you when the next UPF blessing is, and you can potentially bring your people. This is the Youth Achievement Awards again. One thing about this was a remarkable event because Robin and Margaret have done fantastic work over the last 10 years or so, working with members of Parliament. And that's extremely effective in many ways. I just want to say a couple of points. One is, this is an event when they've had already the best part of 100 events already. So people are very aware and very appreciative of UPF events in Parliament. And this was an event where I think we had the record number of members of Parliament, or parliamentarians I should say, come along. Many of them very high level. You can see Keith Baz there, very prominent, one of the most prominent Labour backbenchers. And we had altogether 13 parliamentarians come just to one event to give awards to their constituents, who are our people we introduced for their good youth work in their areas. And this is very attractive to parliamentarians. It makes them look good in their local media. They feel good about what their constituents are doing, but they also get to learn about UPF in the process. And that's very good. You can see Robin on the right, and Holly Davies and so on. Margaret, can't miss Margaret there as well. Anyway, the big thing about this is, the point I want to make is that we are very actively, through UPF, trying to what we call mainstream our movement. What does mainstream mean? It means that we are so much involved at the core of things in the nation, so much regarded as part of the fabric of things, that people can much more easily take ideas from us, get guidance from us, be involved with us in various ways. So part of the challenge of our movement all around the world is to mainstream ourselves, to not be regarded as a fringe or subversive or any other kind of organization, but very respectable, very much part of the solution, not part of the problem. And what happened because of Robin and Margaret's work, I have to say, Joyce and others as well, of course, is that over these 100 or so events, parliamentary authorities got to understand about UPF, what it's doing. And a couple of years ago, they decided that they needed to do something to boost the reputation of Parliament, to boost the whole sort of democratic process and young people's especially involvement in the democratic process. And so they started something called Parliament Week, when Parliament is on display. What Parliament does, the role it plays, how valuable Parliament is, can be known by the population. And they turned to a number of organizations, dozens of organizations around the country that they thought could help to promote Parliament. Guess who they turned to? UPF. UPF is one of them, of course only one. But that was alongside things like King's College London. Do we mind being put alongside King's College London, one of the world's premier academic institutions? Anyway, the point why I'm saying this is because through this work, Parliament has recognised officially, we're on their websites and on their invitations, they have recognised the value of True Parents' work, the value of UPF's work. And there's no reason not to let our relatives, our tribe, our family members know about this. When I tell people about this, most people are shocked. I never knew we did anything like that. I didn't know we were recognised by anybody for anything. When I went to Sweden, we had that seminar in Sweden last year, a lot of BCs came and they were totally shocked. Why didn't anybody tell us about these things? So we thought, well, we ought to do things like this so that brothers and sisters generally can be proud and be built up themselves. I belong to a movement that does those things, that is recognized in that way. And if you're, particularly of course, if you're a member of UPF, you can say, look what we did, look what Parliament did to recognize what we do. Of course you don't want to say it too boastfully, you can be very nonchalant about it, but it really resonates with people. So that's one of our tasks, is to mainstream
Can I just say
a
one
movement.
thing? That person in the middle, from last year to today, is our young Matteo is our partner now, And he's
Right.
through his work, we're trying to get partnership to get funding
Right.
to do some youth work here.
So we're meeting a lot of extremely good, well-connected, effective people who can help us a lot, basically, to extrapolate from what Margaret was just saying. One of them is
Yeah.
this guy who, there's this new program, talent contest on BBC One.
Voice.
Is it BBC One or ITV? Anyway, on television. And he came along to Youth Achievement Awards, was given an award. And of course, he was given an award, but he has in that way lent his credibility and his stature to UPF, and especially among young people. So a great event. This is Stephanie Coombs getting an award from her local MP, Richard Ottaway. This is Daniel Finkelstein. He's a not well-known publicly person, but very close to David Cameron. He's executive editor of The Times. And I would dare to say, more importantly, Agneta Marsh babysits for him, and Robin Marsh knows him increasingly well. And he's, through them, I think, a very favourable impression of our movement. And he came along to one event that we held about the Holocaust. He's Jewish and very concerned about Holocaust denial and so on. So we're reaching people at the very top. He's at Chequers at the moment, right? Robin told me just now, with David Cameron, because they're welcoming the President of the European Commission or something. So lots of really, really movers and shakers being picked up along the way through our activities. This is another event in the Parliament. Again, there's a story here. We held a couple of events in the European Parliament about this issue of the conflict minerals in the Congo, conflict in the Congo, and urging basically the European Parliament to pass a resolution to monitor, to control, and to limit the way that minerals gained from the Congo could be extracted or abused or whatever. And the long and the short is this: to the right of Robin, there's Charles Tannock, who is the member of the Parliament who hosted us. Through his work and with the support of people like us, he's managed to pass this resolution, which means that the European Parliament is now actively deterring people from abusing the situation in the Congo to their advantage commercially, which is a very, very good result for UPF. We don't want to broadcast it from the rooftops, but we can certainly quietly tell it with pride to our family and our tribe. Youth UPF UN Refugee Day. This is that same thing in the Parliament. That's Humphrey Hooks there on the right of Charles Tannock, BBC World Affairs correspondent. Also, Robin and Margaret have done some great work raising funds. One of the things they did, I was particularly appreciative because at that time I was responsible for the North Korea Medical Aid Project. They held a concert right here, and they raised over £1,000 just from one concert, one evening, for the medical aid project, which is now waiting to ship some more supplies to North Korea. So that's part of our relief activities, but raising funds is a key part of that. And also, they held a very successful concert in just near here in Notting Hill, I think, basically for Palestine, right? Raising funds for Palestine, is that right? With some very talented singers from Palestinian origins. So that gives you, I hope, a snapshot at least of what UPF does around the world and what UPF does in the UK. And I hope you can see that there are so many ways in which just using current affairs, what's going on in the Middle East or other parts of the world, the crisis in Nepal, there are so many things you could witness to your family or your tribe or people who want to make part of your family or tribe through what true parents are doing practically. This is not about preaching to people, it's not about beguiling them into becoming part of a new religion. It's just what true parents are doing to solve world problems. That is who true parents, on one level, that is who true parents are. They are practical solvers of major world problems. And UPF is one instrument for them to do that. So you yourselves, I hope, will be encouraged through this to go to the website, go to the UK website, the international website. There's incredible materials on there. There's introductory videos to UPF. There's all kinds of videos of true parents at UPF events. There's things at the United Nations. There's UK events. there's reports of all kinds, and you can get a lot more than I can ever give you now from regularly looking at the website. And then, of course, you're putting together what you see on the website with what you hear on the news and what your relatives do, and through that you link current events to True Parents. And you show effectively that you are part of an organization, you are bringing them to understand an organization that is doing all of these things to try to make a better world. That's the fundamental way that we witness at UPF. And of course we follow up with more and more deep content of divine principle. Robin and Margaret have organized some seminars in Cleve House going forward. They've already had some this year, but going forward there are, I think, a couple more planned, where quite prominent people like Keith Best, who's now one of our directors in the UK, one of the 200 most important people in the UK, according to, I forget who's who introduced Sanjanim last weekend in the Royal Hotel. People like that are coming to Divine Principle workshops through UPF. So why can we not bring our family members to a UPF, effectively Divine Principle workshop? It's not so difficult. I feel very encouraged by this, to try to bring for example, my brother-in-law, my sister, my elder brother who came to the Little Angels. I feel more and more confidence they will, before long, come to this kind of, my brother-in-law's a judge, and you know, he's not in any way stuck up, but he's obviously got to be aware of his position, so he's not going to easily come to a church-type event, but he felt very comfortable with the Little Angels, and I'm sure he'd feel very comfortable at a UPF seminar. So all kinds of pathways opening up, and so what I want to really suggest to you is, please think about and investigate becoming more involved in UPF. Here in Central London, I would say you, honestly speaking, objectively, you are, in those terms, the most blessed community in the whole of Europe, because right in your midst, in the bowels of this building, you have the engine room of UPF in the UK and one of the key engine rooms of UPF in Europe. And they are holding activities all the time. Actually, my job recently has been to sort of say, you know, maybe you don't need to hold so many events. Maybe there's other things you need to do. I have to try and put the brakes on, because there's always new events springing up. And these are, of course, national level events, but you are here in the nation's headquarters or around about the nation's headquarters. So you have this great opportunity that when you have a guest on some event, for example, next week we have a regular Ambassadors for Peace meeting where we teach basic divine principle to, I need that,
What
almost finished.
the first Tuesday of every month. We have last Tuesday.
So we have, yes, next Tuesday and the first Tuesday of every month, we have a roughly 20 or 30 ambassadors for peace come here in the Kentrum, and they learn about divine principle, they learn about True Parents' life, and so on and so forth. And they have a good time, they enjoy it, and there's a lovely atmosphere. So consider bringing your guest there if they know something about us already. We also have, what date is the Africa?
It's Africa Day on the 4th.
June the 4th, we have an Africa Day event. You remember I showed you Africa Day with Ban Ki-moon at the Manhattan Center. Those are always very lively events, because Africans by nature are very gregarious and lively people. And a great event, not just to bring Africans, but of course Brits of every description as well. And you'll find that every week, or it's hardly a week that goes by without some sort of important event. But also you have the resource, you have Robert and Margaret there, I'm sure they won't mind my saying this. You can knock on their door anytime, and they'll be happy to explain things to you, guide you to materials, resources, whatever. They have a lot of resources in their office. So in effect you have the key office of UPF in Europe right in the middle of your local community. So please value that, and please take advantage of that as much as you can. Afterwards we'll be explaining more one-to-one. Anyone who wants to talk to any of us, we're happy to share with UPF, give you more details. Also, you're welcome to take your lunch downstairs as you normally would, but instead of eating it down there, come up here, and we'll have a sort of we'll make a circle of the chairs, and we'll have a discussion. We'll explain a few more things about practical things about involvement in the UPF and how you can use it for tribal messiahship. So please do join us afterwards. I'm sure that many members who are not here this morning will try and do a follow-up event to involve them. Please tell them about it. And it is actually official policy. That's something I wanted to say in closing, really, is we've been working together with Jack Corley as the National Leader. Jack Corley has a very good background in terms of the balance of things that he's done in his life. He's been a church leader, of course, as he's been here for several years now. But he was also, Deputy Secretary General of UPF internationally. He was in Russia as the Secretary General of UPF there, China, and so on. He's got great experience. He knows, excuse me, from first hand the value of UPF, what UPF can do that Family Federation cannot do. Essentially, what we're trying to do is bring people to the bottom of the mountain, which is, the mountain is Family Federation. And we create a realm of heart and good spirit and good relationship, harmony, and good social experiences that people can get used to us, get rid of any concepts they have about us quickly, learn about our positive things, get involved. And then, of course, the idea is lead them onwards. We don't want to keep people just in UPF. We want to lead people on so that people can climb the mountain with us towards true parents where they are on the peak. And that's what our purpose is. It's like a feeder organization, a halfway house that is much easier to bring people to. So please take advantage and please bring people as much as you can and see how you can use this for your tribal messiahship, because it really, really is part of the solution. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. So we're just going to have some reflection and prayer time, and then we'll lead into offering song where you can make your donation or tithing to the front here. Okay, so please just take a few minutes to think about all those amazing achievements that we can also feel proud of, and reflect on the value of UPF and possibly your place in it. Offering song, so please rise. and join together to sing Shining Father.
Our Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity you gave us today to come here to meet and to hear everything, Father, about your will. We want, Father, to fulfill our responsibility, Father, to make you happy, to fulfill the responsibility, Father, from true parents, especially for this UPF, Father. We want to be the good people, Father, to bring so many people who want to be strong, Father, to make this world happy, to understand, Father, the providence, Father, from our true parents. At the moment, Father, we want to offer you this offering from different pockets of your children, Father. We want to bless all effort, the job, all the resources, Father, that made that to have this offering today. Father, please accept this prayer, this moment, in your name, in my name, godly and blessed family. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, please be seated. We've come to the close of our Sunday service today, and it just remains for me to say thank you especially to Mark Brand and the UPF team for coming all the way here and sharing such insightful information and opportunities for us as the headquarter community, Lancaster Gate community, to get involved and to understand more about Tribal Messiahship and how we can bring our friends and relatives to become Tribal Messiah, to become blessed and come closer to God and true parents. So thank you so much for that, Mark, and for Joyce and Linda and Margaret and Robin for coming and supporting us. And I want to thank the band as well for all the effort that Chris and everyone puts in to week in and week out to inspire us and raise the spirit of our service. Thank you everybody for coming, and all those on the internet. I just want to say have a great week, and may God of love and reconciliation, peace be with you, and let's have a wonderful week. And don't forget the meeting after. Pick up your lunch if you want to take part in this meeting and come upstairs. And so thank you very much for everything. And there's also that donation if you want to give anything to Nepal, which will make sure it goes to Nepal as well. Thank you, and God bless you all. Okay.